It's no surprise that this market is absolutely insane. There's a lot of buyers that are doing crazy things like completely waiving home inspection. And I thought today I would actually dive in a little bit about what are some of the things that you should be looking at during home inspection and when you're looking at homes, so when you go to write an offer, you're fully prepared on what you're buying. Some of the things that you should be concerned about, what the costs are. So let's get into it. Today we've got two houses to take a look at. Both of them I have under contract. I'm representing the buyer. And so we're going to be going through home inspections on both of them, pointing out some of the things that you should look at if you're thinking about purchasing a house. All right, so starting at our first house, even though a house might be brand new, there still could be significant issues. From the roof to the trusses, the stucco, there's a lot of things to consider. So just starting on the outside of the house, when you're walking around, when you're looking at the disclosures and you're writing up an offer, they usually tell you a lot of these things. How old is the roof? How old is the water heater? How old is the AC unit? But there's a lot of hidden items as well. And so in today's market, where things are kind of just crazy and the seller is really in control, we're looking at a few things. We're looking at health and safety is number one, and then items that might cost more than $500 to get fixed. So those are a little bit more larger repairs, because here's the deal. If you back out because something costs $300 to repair and the seller says, hey, we're not willing to do it, well, there's a good chance that by the time you find another house that you like, win that offer and get through inspection, you're going to pay a lot more for the house. So let's kind of walk through and figure out what some of the bigger ticket items are and maybe some things that aren't as big of a deal. Ready? You like my white shoes, don't you? They're staying pretty clean for as much as I wear them. But anyways, listen, one of the things we're looking at outside is water management. So a lot of these newer houses in Central Florida are pretty close together, right? We're like 10 to 15 feet in between each one. And so we want to make sure there's like an actual swale in here that's going to run the water away. So all that rain that comes down from the gutters, if there are any gutters, is going to get away from the house as big as possible. We did notice on this house that there were a couple loose fittings. There were some pieces around here that had some rotten wood. And so all of that kind of thing will be solved through better water management. One thing to pay attention to, even on a new house. All right, so what do we find?
So all in all, the house is in really good shape. You know, the roof is still in fantastic shape, beginning half of its life there. Some of the exhaust dampeners need to get cleared up. The biggest issue is just going to be the cracked trusses up in the attic. Yep. You know, which are kind of vital for the roof structure itself.
Yeah, for sure. So you look at from a roof structure on an almost brand new house, right? It's only a few years old. Things can still pop up, right? I mean, like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Brand new houses, you know, we find some of our longest lists with brand new houses there on final inspections.
Yeah.
So certainly don't want to skip the home inspection on a brand new house.
No, definitely not. And even, it's funny because we inspect homes that are 70 years old and sometimes there's less issues.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
The houses that have been lived in and cared for like that, I just left a house that was, 15 years old that had a shorter report than this house.
That's amazing.
It just all depends on how the house is maintained and who's lived there, how much they cared for it.
Perfect. All right, awesome. All right, so this is one of the things that he was talking about. This is the main water service that's coming into the house. It's leaking. Super easy fix, right? But gone unchecked, it could be higher water bills. It could create issues around the house for things to come. And that's why we hire home inspectors, to find little things like this. But let's walk around the outside of the house and figure out some of the bigger ticket items that there could be. So as we're walking around the outside of the house, what are we really looking for? So this is a newer house. They did an amazing job on the stucco, not something that we're really super worried about, but you will notice in Central Florida, you've got step cracking, you've got a lot of stucco issues where the stucco is actually getting pulled off of the house. Those could be everything from a $500 repair all the way up to a $15,000 repair, depending on the damage. And so that's another reason why we get home inspections.
Okay, go ahead.
Ready?
Yep.
All right, so you notice in this neighborhood that there's actually, most of the houses do not have stucco on the second floor. And the reason being is because when you have a block on the main level, you've got a lot of stucco. Everything was really tight and watertight. But then on the next level, a lot of the houses are built with frame. And so take a look at all the houses around here. You've got hardy backer siding. It's like a cement board composite. Whereas if you spin around here, take a look at all the way over there, that house, and you can already start to see the cracking in the stucco. And so if you're not taking care of things like that, it's going to cost you a ton of money long term. All right, so one thing when I'm walking around houses showing folks, especially newer houses, you've got this kind of home team pest defense system. This actually is like a little tube that they put around the perimeter of the house inside the block. And so once a year they come in, they stick their little proprietary key in and keep termites from getting into the house. The same exact thing can be done by just spraying the exterior of the house, but this is actually sort of the next level of defense. But this house is fairly new, so what's some things that we should be looking at maybe on a little bit of an older house? I've got a second house to show you. So our second house is here in Celebration, and this property is a flip home. They bought it as an investment. They put a bunch of money into it. So that means there's opportunities for things to be brand new. There's always things that people miss when they're flipping a house or whether they're living here. The house is 25 years old, but here's some big things that they did take care of. One, there used to be polybutylene piping in this house, which if you don't know what that is essentially something that they put in the 90s and late 80s. Certain type of piping. It's not if it fails, but when, because the piping, they pull apart and then you have huge water problems. So in this house, they completely had to repipe that. And so you'd find out something like that if you're looking up underneath the sink. So this house has been completely repiped all the way through. And so when you're looking under here, you can really tell because the old polybutylene piping is like this gray, kind of like, you can tell it's not copper, it's not lead, it's not the PVC that we use today, but it was right in between. And so if you're not looking out for those things, that can be massive costs to repipe, but then also a lot of insurance companies don't even give you insurance on houses anymore with poly piping, so that's a big one to look at. Another big thing in terms of costs that you're looking at on an older home would be windows. The majority of the houses built before like 2005 or even up in 2010 in some areas of Central Florida had single pane windows. And so that means that they've got just one pane of glass instead of the double pane with the gas inside. And so these are going to be less energy efficient, but they're going to still block out sound and natural elements. But in this house, they left the original windows because they are in pretty good shape. You do notice there's some like discoloration in some of the areas, but for the most part, it's super, super clean throughout. If you're going to replace the windows, they range anywhere between like $200 and $500 per window. And so that doesn't seem like a ton, but when you start adding it up throughout the house, that can be a really expensive project. All right, so in Central Florida, the ACs are going to be upstairs near the living space or out in the garage because we don't have basements. And typically our AC units, they are going to have a heat pump in them for those of you that are up north, so that's going to handle both the heat and the AC. These guys run anywhere from like 16 to 23 years in terms of age, and when you're going to get one replaced, they're going to be anywhere between like $500 and $7,500 per unit. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about on this house is the pool. Pools are something that cost a ton of money when you're kind of doing it from scratch. You could be all the way up to $70,000 to $80,000 just for the pool, not including like a cage or anything like that. And so what you're looking at on the pool side is how's the decking look? Is there discoloration in the pool? Does it need to be resurfaced? But then you're also looking at the mechanicals. So let's take a look at that real quick. All right, so when we're looking at the pool equipment, what exactly are we looking for? We're looking at the fittings to make sure that everything's tight. There's no water leakage on the outside. Then the inspector is actually going to run the heater to make sure that it's actually kicking on, it's heating the pool the way that it's supposed to. So if you have to resurface a pool, on average, that's going to be anywhere between $5,000 and $8,000 just to resurface it, which is not nearly as expensive as adding a new one. If you have to replace the equipment, everything from the guts of it over to the heater, this can run anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 at the end of the day. All right, so this is where you can definitely tell that they've repiped the house. So all of this is PEX. This definitely would not be the same as when the house was originally built. This water tank was put in February of 2017. So again, this one is 4 years old. These guys last anywhere between 8 years and 12 years, and they're actually pretty inexpensive. Something like this installed by a plumber is going to be somewhere around $1,100 to $1,300 installed, but most people are going to the tankless water heater, and so you got that on-demand hot water, which is pretty great. Talk about roofs here in Central Florida. So you've got roofs that typically last up to 20 years if they're the asphalt shingle like this, and then if they're like some of the clay tile or some of the other roofs, they last a little bit longer. But usually the builder ones that they put in are sort of the cheaper quality, and then that secondary roof is the one that lasts a little bit longer. And so what you're looking for on the roof is, are the shingles starting to curl up a little bit? Is there still that kind of gristly look to it that's going to give it some of the protection from the elements? And so to replace a roof in Central Florida, you're looking at anywhere from $15,000 to $35,000 depending on the roof type. There's literally hundreds of things that could go wrong during a home inspection, right? There's all these little things that add up to a lot, but at the end of the day, as long as we're not doing health and safety or some of these larger items, I think you're going to be okay in this market. There's a lot of opportunity to lock in something, that long interest rate, and find a house of your dreams. And so if you're looking to buy or sell a house anywhere in Central Florida, I'd love my team and I to be your real estate resource of choice. So make sure you reach out. My email is ken@positgroup.com, and then make sure you hit the subscribe button as we're putting on multiple videos about life here in Central Florida every single week. See you guys on the next video.
What are those?
They're white shoes.